Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ad Work Not Worries podcast, the #1 podcast in the U.S. that features a guy talking about the construction industry and business, wearing a black billed hat with a red logo on a cream background that is specifically named Ad Work Not Worries. We are the #1 podcast in the U.S. With those credentials, and we're very proud of it. So we thank everyone for listening. I would like to thank you and offer you the opportunity to share our podcast. We're trying to grow the podcast, and it would really, really help if you shared it with friends, family, distant relatives, whoever you think could gain a little insight from the podcast. That would be amazing. We're here 3 times a week, offering you little morsels, hopefully, of motivation, advice, stories, etc. Also, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever platform you're on, if you wouldn't mind rating us, that also helps us jump the ranks, and would do us a huge service. We'd really appreciate it if you've ever gotten anything from any of the podcasts. Rating us would be huge. 5-star preferred, or 5-star, please. 4, 3, 2, 1, all fine. Total respect for the people who decide that's the rating. However, I would rather you get a sticky note and a pen and scribble 1 to 4 stars on the sticky note, and then crumble it up, throw it away, and never look at it again. If it's 1 to 4. If it's 5, hey, post that shit. We'd really love it and appreciate it. Getting into the podcast. So, I'm having a little coffee. It's 4:30 in the morning here, my time. My favorite part of the day. It's still dark outside, but I am a morning person, and I love the morning. To me, it's the most peaceful time, and the time I can collect my thoughts. So, respect to 4:30 in the morning, and a little coffee chat we can have this morning on today's episode, which is going to be a bit of Monday motivation, as I decided in the new year to label it. What is on my mind? Let's jump into it. So I've been reading a book, Ikigai, and it's just about the Japanese art of being in the moment, appreciating the little things, appreciating the moment, and appreciating the art that is around us in everyday life that we often miss. And it really got me thinking about tradesmen, the trades, builders, what gets my juices flowing, and really as I've gotten a little older, what motivates me being in the trades specifically. I'm a builder. I come from a background of being in the field, of swinging a hammer. Specifically, I've done rough and finish carpentry, and also I had if you've listened to any of the past episodes, I had a tile and masonry company for a while, and I was that guy that would be in the field daily, swinging the hammer. And I got a lot of joy and fulfillment out of that. And as I transitioned into being, specifically choosing my path as a builder, developer, I transitioned to not doing as much work in the field with my bags on, with the guys. And that was a hard transition for me because I really enjoyed the art and ritual of being in the field, having my tools on, doing work, and the fulfillment at the end of the day of having done work. And the monotony of being a builder, at times I would go through these waves of just, sorry, my dog is in the background barking. Roscoe, get over here and sit down. See, this is real life. My dog wants to kill something outside at 4 in the morning. That's a little sketch. So the monotony of now being a builder, focusing not on my bags, my hands, what I'm doing, touching, feeling, but rather planning, scheduling, budgeting, what's ahead of us, forecasting, dealing with employees. One thing that was really tough for me, not being one of the guys, like you're when you're in the field, you're one of the guys, you're one of the crew. That there's a real good feeling surrounding that. There's a camaraderie about that. When you open your own business and start your own company, now you have employees. You can't really be part of the crew, and that's kind of soul crushing at times. So these waves of emotion are tough, and I've done some introspection on this. Why do I feel that way, and what do I do from this point to feel better on a daily basis and keep motivated about what I'm doing? And I really started thinking, well, maybe not. What I am, I'm not a business owner, builder at the core. I mean, we need to be that. But what made me feel so good about being a tradesman? Why did I get so much satisfaction from that? And I think it comes down to art. Like, we are, as tradesmen, a living artist. When you're out there in the field working with your hands, no matter what you're doing, you're putting together a piece of art. Whether it's framing, whether it's plumbing, whether it's electrical, doing tile work, doing drywall, I would assume if anyone's worked with drywall mud, the zen state you can get in as you're taping joints and texturing is real. Working with plaster, mixing up mud in your pan, it's a real thing. So tradesmen, building owners, or owner builders, sub-trades, we're all artists. And even if I look at the definition of construction, now there's a bunch of definitions of construction, but the one that jumped out at me, construction is a general term meaning the art and science of forming objects, systems, or organizations. What we do is we take things, material things that are raw, we take multiples of these things, put them together in such a fashion that they form something aesthetically pleasing. Whether it's a tile shower, whether it's a loop fit in an island that is perfectly looped and glued and there's not over drip from the glue, whether it's pigtailing an electrical wire out of the wall at the perfect height and spooling it so it's at a perfect 90 and it's ready for after drywall to come in and add a box and do what you need to do. Like, all these things mean something. It means something aesthetically. It means something in the moment when you're doing it. There's a therapeutic value to it. And in the end, someone gets great enjoyment who lives in this structure or who's able to enjoy what you built. They're able to extract their own feeling and value from it. So as a constructor, you are, I don't want to get so grandiose here, but like, think of yourself as Da Vinci. What did Da Vinci do? Da Vinci didn't go study in school for 4 to 5 years and get spit out as an artist. Like a lot of the trades, he went through an apprenticeship. He learned through his apprenticeship. He had his own style that he swayed towards. And when it was time, and he was let's say a journeyman, and that's not what they would call it, but he then went out on his own and did his thing in his own way, as so many of the trades do. And I mean, that sounds very grandiose, but talk to any of the trades. Talk to them about their craft. So many of them can vibe out on what they're doing and how they do it differently. I always say this podcast isn't for the hacks. So not for the hacks, but for the tradesmen I prefer to work with, all of them have respect for the aesthetic, the art, the nuance of their craft. In a way, we're some of the last living artists. And if you can view that on a daily basis and take that Ikigai mentality of the embodiment of Ikigai, as I mentioned earlier, is in being able to realize what you're doing in the moment, getting lost in the moment, and just fully experiencing and appreciating what you're doing. And oftentimes you don't. But as a tradesman, you get to live the art that you're creating every day. And I know how tough it can be swinging a hammer or chopping mud or doing whatever you're doing. But the fact that you get to live that daily, and if you could figure out a way to get lost and appreciate that moment, it's a really it could really change your experience day to day in the trades. I can think back. Sometimes I romantically think back about my time in the field, and when I think about some of the best times in my life was getting up at 5 a.m. because I had to drive an hour to a job site, stopping at, back then it wasn't everything craft coffee, but Jack in the Box had really good coffee. And, the sun's not out. It's 5:30 in the morning when you leave the house. You go through the Jack in the Box drive-through. Typically, the only people that are going to be in the drive-through are the tradespeoples, as we're, us zombies creeping out to the job site. Get your hot coffee. It's a cool morning. The steam's coming off the coffee. Get it. Drive your car. Whether you're listening to, I was a big fan of talk radio at the time, not even podcasts. It was always talk radio. Talk 910 typically in the Bay is what I would listen to. Listening to talk radio as the sun would gently come up over the little hills that were rolling in the background, driving to the job site, get to the job site between 6:30 and 7. Everyone would start rolling in, banter for the morning, pulling out my tool belt, pulling out my tool bag, just feeling the energy at the job site of what we're going to do for the day, jumping into what we're going to do, getting lost in, the millwork we're doing or the trim we're going to put on the walls, at the time, the tile work we're going to do or the counters we're going to install, or we were doing a lot of cabinetry, and just really vibing out on that moment throughout the day, and seeing at the end of the day the product that you created that no one else created. Like I probably didn't appreciate it enough at the time, but when I think back on it, it's just was a really great experience. And still to this day, when I feel the most fulfilled in my day, it's when I take on a little side project. Like I made at our last house, we don't live there anymore, but I converted this playroom that was in this hallway, in the entryway. There was a single door in this little small, not quite a bedroom size room without a closet. And when our third daughter was on the way, I took that room, me by myself, converted that room, closed in the door, sheetrock patched it, framed in and opened up French doors leading into the hallway, put a beadboard wainscot and cap all around the interior perimeter of the room, installed new wood flooring, created like this really cool baby nursery. And that took me probably 4 or 5 days solo to do this. And I didn't paint it, I'll admit that. The only thing I didn't do was paint it. I had it painted. But once it was painted and finished, every time I walked by that, I knew that like that was my work that I did with my hands. And the feeling I had every single day after working 6, 7, 8, 9 hours to get this done, because I wanted to get it done in a certain time frame, beyond any of the successes I've had with building, it was one of the most just the most fulfilling experiences. I've said fulfilling a million times, and I apologize about that, but I'm just trying to get the point that I got to live the art like a lot of tradespeople get to live the art. I remember the first time, there's so many trade references as to how the art is embodied. And I remember the first time I saw a carpenter that I know well, and we became really good buddies, frame a little bump out addition by hand with his hammer. And it was an experience that I'll remember forever. It's probably something that all the OGs are gonna be like, okay, dipshit, you saw someone frame with a hammer. But it doesn't happen anymore. Everyone has their pass loader. Everyone has their, whatever nail gun they're using. And, when you're framing, it's pop, 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 nailing off shear. But no, when someone has bags on and they can perfectly, they can stand the wall, lean the wall solo, and keep that wall in place, somehow perfectly slide their hand into their bag, grab the nail, and they grab the nail in such a fashion with their hands that the nail is perfectly positioned for them to take a swing of their hammer. Their hammer's in their bag. They unsheath their hammer. They put it down. Boom. One swing. They might need a second finish swing, but a lot of times, tap, swing, nail is in, resheath the hammer, boom, back to the bags, and they can do that in sequence. Pop, pop, pop. Boom. Boom. I mean, it's like... That's a thing. That's a transformative experience. That's something that someone spent, a decade of their life to perfect. And every single time it's mechanical when they slide that hand in. Every single time that nail is in the same spot when they bring their hand out. Every single time they grab the hammer, they grab it in the perfect position on the shaft. So when they take that swing, they know at exactly what strength they're going to hit the nail head, and they know how much strength they need to hit that nail head with to drive it in one shot. I mean, that's respect if I've ever respected anything ever. And to watch someone do that for an 8-hour day and stand up a 3-sided addition that's connected to a house and then start to stack the roof all by hand. I mean, if that's not as close to watching the statue of David get carved, I don't know what is. I really feel that way. And I want everyone to embody what they're doing and what they get to do. Not everyone gets to have that fulfillment at the end of the day. Not everyone gets to work with their hands. Like, you are a living artisan. They call it an artisan for a reason. Tell me this. There's a vibe. There's a feeling. When you walk into a shower, wherever you might be, you're staying at a friend's house, you're staying at a nice hotel, you're staying anywhere, and you go into a shower, you can tell if a true artisan and a true artist tiled that shower. Because someone who cares about their craft, not someone who just hacks shit on a wall or hacks shit on a floor, they care about each T-joint or whatever, each joint being perfectly spaced, each tile being level. They take the extra 10 seconds to make sure that if it's not, they pop it up, they butter it, they reset it, they scrape the grout joint so that you don't get the mortar popping through the grout when you grout. Like, they just take the time for the aesthetics. And then when you go and you're taking the shower and you turn on the valve, and as you turn on the valve, staring you right in the face is one of the joints from the tile install, and you can see that it's perfectly vertical, it's perfectly T, there's no gapping, there's no spacing. You get a different feeling than if you were to walk in that shower and stub your toe on a fucking hanger that's, a corner of a tile that's sticking out because they didn't care to take that time. Forget the pain of stubbing the toe. It's just aesthetically unpleasing and you're not feeling it. When someone walks into your product, whatever it is you're doing in the trades, they feel that aesthetic and they can feel the art and have respect for it. When I build a house, I care about the little things. I care about the fact that, the way the paint is cut in from the navy blue study to the walls that are a different color in the hallway. The way that's cut in is perfect, and there's not paint boogers in the corner, so that when someone sees it, they know that someone put time and effort into it. When someone walks into their master bathroom and they see that the transition on the floor is perfectly flush and there's no transition strip because you took the time to float it up to the exact height, and you took the time to ramp the wood the extra 1/32 of an inch so there's no gap, and you can just slide a marble across the wood floor to the tile. They understand and they feel that. When they go into the kitchen and the sink is perfectly set to the bottom of the granite opening or the stone opening of the countertops, and the overhang of the counter is exactly 3/16 all the way around. Not a 1/2 inch on this side and 3/16 on this side and an 1/8 on this side. No, it's perfectly the same. The caulk joint's perfectly the same. Everything is the same. They feel that. There's an energy about it. When the cabinets are coped to the wall, because the carpenter installing the cabinets took the time to make sure that he took off the face frame, made a cut, put it back up, measured it, took it off. We all know drywall is not perfectly straight, so they're going to cope it to the wall. When you do the paper test and there's only a 30-second gap in between that cabinet that he removed 7 times and put back on the wall so he can do the paper test and slide that paper through, and that's the only thing that'll fit between the cabinet and the wall, you feel that. When there's not a scribe molding, you feel that. When there's not a shoe molding on the baseboards, you feel that. You feel all these things because it's art. If you look at the Mona Lisa and she was fucking cockeyed, what would you feel? You wouldn't feel the same. We get to live the art. We get to live the art. The trades, everything the trades do, like I said, when the electrician perfectly pigtails a wire out of the wall at a 90-degree angle, you feel that. When all his wires are stapled nicely across the top cord or the top of the trusses, when he's running wires on the second floor, and just aesthetically, he has 6 home runs going from one side of the house to the other, and they're spaced perfectly 1/4 of an inch apart, and they're all running in one direction instead of just running wild. No, they're nicely tacked down. You feel that. When the plumber runs his pipes and they're perfectly strapped, they're not dangling, bangling, flailing around. You feel that. You feel it. Like I said, you feel the tile, the sheetrock, everything, the wood floor install. When you take the extra time, when you take the energy, when you appreciate and respect what you're doing. And to all the trades out there, embody that. You're an artist and live the art. And you know what? When it comes to marketing yourself, don't market your business as a tradesman. The tradesmen I want to work with market their art. They have their story. They tell you the story of the art they're creating. And because of that story, you can feel their energy, and you want to work with people who have that energy. So as an artist, market yourself as an artist. Go on the social media platforms and take pictures of things that you don't think people would give a shit about. But as an artist, you do, because guess what? People will give a shit about it. They'll like the fact that you took a picture of a perfectly mitered tile on a shower bench, or if it's a through body tile, a tile that you polished perfectly so that it's perfectly round, not with a sharp edge as it transitions from the seat to the face of the bench. They'll appreciate that. They'll appreciate your carpentry when you show them that during your process of framing, you didn't blow out, half of the studs because your pressure on your nail gun was too high. They'll appreciate that. They'll appreciate when you're nailing off shear and you show your nail pattern and how nice your nail pattern is for your shear nailing. They will appreciate that. You talk about that. Show them that. I'll appreciate it. That's for damn sure. So, if anything today, you're in a unique position to be able to work with your hands and create art on a daily basis. And I know that sounds grandiose, and I've said that already, but it is real. So the trades are a grind. We've all been in it. We've all done it. I know it can hurt. I know we can be sore. I know it can get monotonous, but live the art. Ichigo Ichie. Feel it every day. And I think it's going to make you enjoy what we're doing like a whole lot more. Thanks, y'all.